Good morning, everyone. This is Tony Segreto. Welcome to Shark Sports Wrap here on 640 AM. Everything you could possibly ever want to know about Nova Southeastern University Shark Sports. We're here today. We're here every Saturday morning from 8:30 to 9:30. So happy you could join us on this beautiful, beautiful Saturday morning. I'm sure you're out and about getting your Christmas shopping done, holiday shopping done, maybe still getting your tree, maybe putting your decorations up. I know that my children have been, Dad, we have to get the decorations up. So I'm sure that's going to happen at some point today. But again, we're so happy you could join us here on Shark Sports Wrap. We're going to start today's segment a little differently. The last 4 weeks we've been talking to our athletic director, Mike Momini, who was also the former baseball coach until a year ago. So appropriately enough, we do have the head baseball coach at Nova Southeastern University with us this morning, Greg Brown. Greg, it's great to have you here.
Tony, thank you so much.
And I know this is something that you really are excited about as a former player and someone who knows the culture here, and having played for Mike Momini. And first of all, just coming in and replacing your coach, who has been here for such a long time, and Mike now just assuming the athletic director's position. What was that like to come in and step in for him?
It was a lot of pressure. Because being one of his disciples, as I like to say, I came up through the ranks and got some experience outside of playing under him, but replacing him after the tenure that he had in the run, it's actually quite immense, and I was fortunate that he left the cupboard pretty full for me, and we had some good players coming back, and so the transition was easier, but luckily he's still here in my corner and I can still lean on him too.
As easy as a transition can be, you still want to put your own stamp on this team, your own personality. You want to establish the type of ball you want to play. How did that transition go? Whether you wanted to run more, be more station to station in how you play, maybe a little more aggressive, maybe a little less aggressive. How did that work out with the players?
I think that they really adapted to my philosophy, and as a former catcher, it's quite funny though, but I really believe in the running game. And last year's
that's not funny because the demand it puts on the catcher.
Yeah, I think that you stress them, and one of the things that Gene had brought up to me, our athletic communication, he told me that we had broken the steal attempt record like about halfway through the season, and I was like, oh, well, it's pretty cool. We had about 121 attempts last.
And how successful were you?
At probably about a 75% clip. So
which is a nice trade-off when you really take a look at the percentages.
It's putting pressure, making them make plays, and oftentimes if they don't take care of the baseball, we're taking two bases, and the ability to put runners in scoring positions, and now you only have to hit, let's say, 333 rather than 500, or if there's 2 outs, 1,000. Putting guys in runners in scoring position presents an opportunity just for more hits, more holes, and so the guys really like the style. Obviously, we have to adapt to the type of player we have, and luckily I took over a team that had team speed and had aggressive baseball players, and so when we went into the recruiting trail going into this year, we lost 16 seniors last year. So we're very proud of that graduation rate, and as we transitioned and brought in 20 new players, one of the things that I wanted to be sure of is that we continue to recruit that type of athlete who can continue to put pressure on the defense.
One thing, if I can harken back to the national championship days that Ron Frazier had at the University of Miami, his whole philosophy was force the other team to make a play, because 75 or 80% of the time you're going to be successful because they're not going to be able to make that play. Mm-hmm. And in college baseball especially with the weight training and the strength, you're getting players who have speed, and even if you don't have a full lineup of speed, you can mix and match your players so that you can put the speed in the right positions.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you go to recruit now, down here probably like California and Texas, when you can play pretty much year round, and even though the Miamis get theirs and the FIUs get theirs and the FIUs get theirs, there's so many good players that are available for you just here in this local area.
Well, I think that's the proof is in the pudding. We this past year we had 2 guys from our program make it to the big leagues from the 2009 draft. I think that oftentimes this arena of recruiting is done so far in advance now, and that's kind of the way it's gone, where sophomores are committing early. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a former professional scout. I'm not good enough to evaluate a kid how good he's going to be 4 years, 6 years down the road. I mean, we could take what it is, and we could take the tools that he has and his aptitude and say how he's going to apply it. But when you look at the landscape, there's a lot of players to be had, and we do recruit locally. We're heavy into the local, and as a matter of fact, I'm not afraid to go up against those mid-major Division Ones. I think that we have enough resources and opportunity where players are going to come develop and be successful. The education piece to it, as well as the athletic piece, can be a fit for the right kid who is a Division I type player. I mean, J.D. Martinez, who's kind of our poster boy for a kid who came through the program. I had the fortune of drafting him with the Houston Astros. Now he's hitting 3-hole, and if you look at that recipe, so the guy's hitting 3-hole for the Houston Astros. He probably could have started at Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's where sometimes the later bloomers are kind of our niche. Also,
how much does it help you to have a J.D. Martinez to use as an example when you're going into a home to recruit?
I think it's huge because he's a local kid who was a good student, who qualified for all the financial benefits that come through the school academically, and then you take him and you put they see a similarity to them, and they're like, well, why was this kid overlooked? He was a late draft pick out of high school, but not really a signed guy. Had no scholarships other than to Broward Community College, and so when you're telling that story, I think you start landing bigger fish, and that's kind of my goal. As good as we were last year, my goal is to continue to bring in better players, and you make a competitive environment. But being that the kids oftentimes have prior relationships here, I think it builds for team building quicker.
Tell me about your team.
It's a fun team. Energized, a lot of baseball players, and that's what I'm proud of. I mean, we have a lot of baseball players. I wouldn't say we're the toolsiest team, but when you put us on paper, we're not going to light you up like last year. We had the player hit 17 home runs. I mean, we had guys that had monster offensive years. I mean, you look at the leaders that we have coming back. I mean, you have 3 all-conference outfielders. You have the freshman of the year at second base. On the mound we have our best pitcher returning. And so when I look at kind of the recipe and then what we've brought in, we got energy. We're young. And I think that we're going to play hard, and so that's exciting for me.
Do you have the speed that you were looking for to play the type of ball you want to play?
Yeah, I think we do, and actually what's fun is that there's been some guys that have surprised me. Maybe I underestimated their speed, in the recruiting process. And because the 60-yard dash isn't always the indicator,
Right.
It's more game speed. And when I use the term baseball player, what I love is the instincts that we have. And as a coach, if you don't have to teach the game, you're more fine-tuning.
It's huge.
Correct.
And instinct becomes so pivotal, and especially when you're talking about speed and baseball speed, and you're talking about being able to cut the corners and when you're rounding the bases. Something as simple as that saves you enough time where it's a difference between being safe and out.
Absolutely. And technique, and you look at cornerbacks like in the NFL. Not always the fastest runner. Sometimes they just have the best hips. And one of the things that you look in base runners, guys who can really stretch a single into a double, well, they know how to get out of the box and take a great angle that puts them in line to second base.
Well, this is, I remember speaking of, you mentioned a cornerback, and I remember talking to some cornerbacks back, whether it was with the Dolphins or other teams, and they had great wide receivers to go against every day, that it made the game a little bit easier for them when they played because they were playing such great wide receivers. So my analogy, if I could stretch it a little bit, is since you're such a team that wants to run, I have to believe that defensively it makes you better because you guys are practicing against that run every day, and your catcher has to be up to speed to be able to handle if teams want to do the same thing to you.
Yeah, I think it's all about pressure applied, and in our practices, in our inter squads, we try to stress our guys through pressure. And I think taking kind of what you're referring to is that they become comfortable in that element. And once they become comfortable, they're going to succeed because there's no pressure. Pressure's perceived. And like our team coming into this year, if we have expectations that we're supposed to go beyond what we did, well, that's our own self-prophecy that might be applying stress that we don't need. All I know is we're going to take every game day by day because we're prepared.
How cerebral do you want your team to be?
A mix.
You know?
I think it's got to be the right guy.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I think that if you teach the game and they have knowledge of the game, then their instincts can take over. It's building the subconscious of
You
the
can
player.
do more, though, with a smarter team in terms of plays and putting things on.
Very much so. Execution. We're going to win games. There's no doubt about it. But what we have to do is win those 1-2 run games. And how do you win that? That's through execution. And that's through, getting the bunt down or understanding when to take the extra base. As a manager of the game, if they run wild and there's no reins, then I lose all control of the game, and I don't have the ability to put us in position to win. But the players are going to win you the games oftentimes in that great heads-up play. You go back to the Derek Jeter Giambi play.
Right.
And the truth is, most shortstops know that they have to float on that play, but most of them don't.
Right.
And so Jeter makes this unbelievable play at crunch time in the playoffs. And obviously, heralded as one of the better plays in playoff history defensively, and rightfully so. And why? Calm. I always, what I look for? Look at the way players chew gum when they're playing baseball. If their jaw's locking, they're probably a high tension guy. If they're loose, they're going to play relaxed.
Interesting. Well, I'll take note. Either that or sunflower seeds.
Absolutely.
One of the two. How many local players?
I would say 75% of our roster, so probably around 28 guys.
So the high schools that are represented, just off the top of your head?
Flanagan, St. Thomas. We got American Heritage Plantation. One of the cool things that we do have is 2 members on our team won high school national titles. And that's a big emphasis.
Huge.
We have great baseball down here. Pace High School. And these kids are coming from winning
McCarthy,
programs. Yeah, Archbishop McCarthy, absolutely. And you have winning programs that kids are coming in here and they know how to win, and that's key for me.
What's been the biggest challenge for you as a new head coach?
I think the biggest challenge is establishing my way. I think that anytime there's a transition, whether I was Mike's disciple or not, I think there's a culture change, and I think reestablishing culture is probably the hardest thing anybody has to do in any organization. And so we've brought a brand new brand, with my own stamp, and I would say last year it was met, and then at times resisted. And I think now, as you see the core of our team growing, in 3-4 years down the road, when they have had their entire career under us, I think that that we're going to see the benefits.
So give me your schedule.
We start out with Albany State on.
Well, you start training. We're approaching on the new year in a couple of weeks. So you start training January what?
January 9th. Yeah. We open back up on January 9th, and we're going to have 6 days a week. We're going to get after it. We're going to get right into sim games and inter squads. All leading. I guess you work backwards from day one. We get into a 3-game series versus Albany State. We have some travel games.
I'm assuming Albany State is here, considering it's January.
Correct. Yeah. Albany State's coming here. We're going to go to Valdosta State early, which is going to be a good test. weather and travel wise. And then we got to go on the road for some big boys. We got Florida Southern on the road this year. We got Tampa on the road. But we were 5-1 versus them last year. So I think that our team's pretty confident going in versus the bigger guys.
Well, it's nice to have you. It's very interesting down here. You open up against Albany State. Ron at used to open up against Maine. So, these northern teams come down, and they haven't seen the sun in about 4 months, and they're looking here going, oh, my goodness gracious, and they have a good time, and it's a good tune-up for you.
Very much so.
It's great to have you. Nice to see you here. We wish you the best of luck, and it's a great brand of baseball, and we'll keep up with you on the Shark Sports Wrap and make sure that people get out to the ballpark, because it's a great place to see a game.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Go Sharks.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.